Welcome to the Fleet Geeks Podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoyed the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook?
Let's crack on.
Got a red light, mate.
Red light spells danger, and I think today's going to be danger.
Mike and I have just been sat here. Mike's just said bye to the final day of the Transport Manager CPC training, haven't you, mate?
I have, yeah. It's been a long couple of weeks, weeks and a bit, and they've got it all to do tomorrow, but they're going to be on their own.
Sent them off packing, and here we are. I've had a long old Monday, and Mike's gone, let's do something controversial. Jamie's not here. Let's do something controversial, and I'm like, do you know what? Let's do it. So today we're going to tackle pricing for external transport managers. How about that?
That's a dirty subject, and when it comes, always a one for debate when it comes up on any of the forums, and people start to, and I think people know now that there's a certain group of people on those forums, myself and Pete included, and a couple of the others who really, let's put no point. It boils our piss, doesn't it? It really does boil our piss.
Grinds your gears, grips your shit, whatever it is you want to say. It fucks people right off.
So what are they talking about, Pete, when they talk about industry standard rate for external transport managers? Firstly, what is an external transport manager?
Yeah, that's a good starting point. So an external transport manager is someone who is not an employee of the transport operator, or in my opinion of an external. To be honest, I've never checked the wording of it at all. There needs to be a genuine link between the transport manager and the operation, but my understanding of an external transport manager is someone who is not employed full-time in that capacity as an internal transport manager.
Yes, correct. That's almost the word in the legislation, is it? But as you say, they have to have a continuous and genuine link to the undertaking or the operator. So an ETM then, it's more than just a name on a piece of paper, isn't it? That's I think what we're harking to.
Well, definitely the days of a transport manager and name only are long gone.
Yeah.
Very, very, very much so. And I think that the name on the piece of paper, I think a lot of this harks back to that point. I suppose.
I think that's where it comes from. I think that's where the angst comes from. There was a time when you could appear on multiple operators' licenses as the name transport manager, and I think that's where this comes from, that there should be a kind of set fee for that. But my opinion is that a transport manager, an external transport manager, just like an internal manager, will bring different things to the table, Pete.
Yeah, that's absolutely it, and I think that's sort of what frustrates me most. Oh, look, Mike's headphone plug's fallen out. It was getting me on edge, mate, because I was seeing it sort of coming out. I was like, well, I'm not sure if he's going to be able to hear me or not, But yeah, so where were we? That's made me lose my thread. You asked me a question.
Doesn't happen on the BBC, that does. Yeah. What? So the value of the transport manager brings, external transport manager brings.
I think that's the challenge. Is that I think when I see transport managers and external transport managers discussing this subject on Facebook and that kind of thing, I just think sometimes they're not really looking at solving the problems of the operator.
No.
They're literally just thinking about doing the barest minimum to be able to maintain compliance or introduce some compliance system to an operator, when actually that operator, whether they're a startup or a legacy operator, there's going to be lots of other skills that transport manager or external transport manager can bring to that operation.
Absolutely. I think there is, playing devil's advocate, there is going to be a number of operators that are, fairly well established, fairly routine in what they do, and they are simply looking for a safe pair of hands to guide them, without doing anything sort of great shakes. But I would imagine that the vast majority of ETMs are almost a distress purchase. So they're coming into a business, and I mentioned, I don't know if you know who he was, Pete, but I mentioned somebody on Facebook. They come in like a modern day Red Adair. Now, Red Adair was around in the 70s, and he was a firefighter, and he would cap oil wells.
I had to Google
You
Red Adair.
Googled it,
I saw it, and I
yeah.
was like, does he mean Fred Adair? And he's messed an F.
He did a bit of dancing, didn't he?
Was Fred Adair a dancer?
Fred Astaire was a bit of a dancer, yeah.
No, not Fred Astaire. No,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
Fred
Red Adair. Now, so Red Adair capped off. So there was an emergency. There was an oil fire, an oil well fire in Texas, and Red Adair would steam in with his merry bunch of cowboys and cap the well and make everything safe again. And, you know, that's a lot of the time, that's what a transport manager will do, an ETM will do, isn't it? They'll come in and there'll be a bit of a basket case and they'll rescue it and literally rescue the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's great value in that. There's great value in that. And so I think sort of if we wind it back for people who are listening, the industry standard, which is, I don't really know sort of how it's come about, but it's certainly been coined by one of the, I think it's the Transport Managers Forum, which is run by Dimitri Nard, who I do try to get on the podcast quite regularly. I've messaged him several times to try and get him on because I'd love to discuss it with him. But he essentially has what he calls like the Transport Managers website. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but external transport managers can register with him when they're looking for operators, and they can put their location in. And the thing is I think there's just this element missing there of the marketing, of the showmanship, of this is the value I can bring to your organisation if I come and work with you. Because a lot of operators, they might just want a name in a box, in which case they'll pay the industry standard. But like you say, there's plenty of Red Adairs out there who are able to go and make some real impact. Now, those industry standard rates that are talked about is something around, and I think that we're in the process of seeing them change. But historically, if you'd spoken to me last year, a lot of operators would have said 350 quid for the first vehicle and 100 quid a month for any subsequent vehicles on top of that. Many don't charge for trailers, so essentially it was based on the number of assets that an operator had, and it would be based on the HGVs. It wouldn't include vans, it wouldn't include anything else. So they're the industry standards. And Dimitri did put a post up a little while ago, like he was some kind of superhero, that he's increased the rates for external transport managers, and it's now going to be 450 for the first vehicle and 100 or 150 for each additional subsequent vehicle. But one of the things that I know sort of Richie Idden and Tom Reddy are going to be joining me on the upcoming webinar when we talk about what an ETM should charge. And I got corrected actually on one of the comments because I got challenged to say, well, hang on, you're telling people what they should charge. I'm absolutely not. Everyone is free and able to make their own decisions. And we haven't got to look too far back to think about the price fixing scandal with the HGV manufacturers, where they all sort of knew what each other were charging. I wasn't privy to the actual things that occurred, but I'm very well aware that there's been some hefty fines for some of the vehicle manufacturers because essentially they were price fixing. Now, having industry standard pricing is essentially price fixing, right?
Cartel. It's a cartel, isn't it? That's what that's essentially what it's all about, and we know where cartels end up now. But it's it'd be great to get Dimitri's view on it, and that's, I think, when somebody has an opposite or a different view to you, it's quite interesting to find out how they got to that view. I guess one of the defences that he might come, or one of the things he might suggest is that there has to be a starting point, doesn't there? And I guess that's kind of a sort of point in the sand that we can work around, but it is about value, isn't it? And people bring different value to the table, don't they?
Absolutely. And some transport managers will get caught up with, we need to support upcoming operators. We need to support operators who are just starting out and that kind of thing. Hi, it's Pete from Flagship Partners. We're really proud to sponsor the Fleet Geeks podcast. Flagship Partners offer a range of consultancy and training services to ensure that our customers remain compliant and have the best possible knowledge to be able to fulfill their work. If you're interested in support with any of our safety, HR or compliance services, or you want to train to be a transport manager or need driver CPC training, give us a call today. I do understand there's some guys out there who are really having a go with maybe one vehicle or approval for two vehicles, and they need supporting on that journey. But if you're negotiating over a 50 or 100 quid a month, and their fuel bill is whatever it is going to be, you know, I think they've got you've got to value that knowledge and that role if they can't do it, or support them to pass the exam themselves, or something like that. But I've lost my thread on what the question was again.
Well, it's around the value, isn't it, that somebody brings to the table.
Exactly.
It's you know, as you quite say, you know, so say our pizza bill is probably as much as what we're going to be paying on, or what somebody could potentially be paying on in terms of a transport manager, and it just seems to be like crazy, isn't it?
It makes me laugh. I pay more for SEO. And for those of you that don't know what SEO is, that's search engine optimization. I pay more on a monthly basis for SEO than what you'd get for a 2 or 3 vehicle HGV transport manager.
Yeah, it seems crazy, isn't it?
People have got to get in the first, you know. And one of the things that really frustrates me is there was on the chat that there was the other day. There was a guy said, right, a transport manager full time will earn somewhere between £30,000 and £50,000 a year. So if you pro rata that back per month, and they have 4 and they try to base it on that. But actually, the thing is, when you go self-employed, there's lots of things that you don't take into consideration. And I do as an employer, and we employ transport managers like Mike, like Jamie. And the thing is all of a sudden you have 52 weeks in a year. You then put someone on holiday for 5 of those weeks of the year, so that's 47 weeks, and then you have maybe a week of absence or you know, lost time. And then when you're a consultant or an external transport manager, you're definitely never going to work 5 days of the week. You're probably only going to be available for 4. So all of a sudden, you're only working 45 weeks of the year. And of those 45 weeks of the year, you're only working 4 of the days. So 45 times 4, you're looking at 180 days in a year. You know, so, you know, it's one of those. All of a sudden, but it's not just the salary that you need to pick up. You haven't got pension contributions when you're self-employed. You haven't got, you know, who's paying for your vehicle and your fuel, who's paying for your insurance, who's paying for your PPE, who's paying for your laptop, all of those things that are taken into account for an internal. You need to start factoring those into whatever you're pricing. And, you know, let's take 350 quid for a single vehicle for a month. I can't, Mike, you might need to remind me exactly what the hours expectation are as a starting point from the traffic commissioner. But I'm sure it's something like, is it 2 hours a vehicle?
2 hours a vehicle would be about right, wouldn't it? 50 hours for a full, you know, full person. 50 vehicles, one transport manager without any assistance, you know. So pro rata that down again, you get that. Yeah, so it is a difficult one, isn't it, to put a price on? You've got professional indemnity insurance you would have to take out as well as a consultant. So I don't think you can look at a full-time employee's salary and then just pro-rata it down.
And let's just look at 350 quid as a starting point. So let's start, for argument's sake, that's only 2 hours a week's worth of work, right? So that's potentially up to 10 hours of delivered work on site with an operator for £350. 4-5 visits for that. You know, you're spending that time, and then you've also got the travelling time. So let's just take an average of half an hour for each of the travel, each of the visits. So that's another 5 hours of the month. All of a sudden, you're looking at under £20 an hour. And that's not even for doing all of the things that you really need to do, which is inducting drivers, speaking to drivers, debriefing on infringements, properly setting out policy, procedure, and everything else that you need to do. It's nowhere near. It's nowhere near.
And, you know, any operator who wants to take a transport manager, an ETM on, if you think about them as a consultant rather than just an ETM, that consultant's going to bring some knowledge, some contacts, a lovely black book of contacts, and help build the business. So they're going to be there. It's kind of like a partnership. They're going to help support the business and take the business forward rather than just stagnate it and just charge a flat fee. So, yeah, I think we've, as you can probably see, we're very passionate about the value. And I alluded to an analogy with a solicitor. You know, for whatever reason you're in a police station and you're charged with something that could get you 20 years at a Majesty's pleasure, you know, you're not going to question the solicitor that comes through the door. And if that solicitor says, "Don't worry, pal, I charge industry standard rates," you're going to want to think somebody who's going to bring more value to it than that, who's going to get you off the charge if you're obviously not guilty. the value for that would be priceless, wouldn't it? And it's the same, I think, with a transport manager. I think we've got to look to that kind of level.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, do you know what? The way I see it is I'm happy to let, and I think this is probably just a bit of an insight into my perspective on it, so people can really sit and think hard about it. But as the founder of Flagship, as a person who sort of built the business up over the last 3 years, I'm more than happy to let the external transport managers on Facebook fight over the 1, 2 and 3 vehicle operators for their £350 to £500 a month all day long. They're more than happy. I'm more than happy to let them do that, because all of the time they're doing that, I'm out building a business that's dealing with operators who have got 50 vehicles. I might not be their external transport manager, but we're out there supporting them, offering consultancy services, adding value, HR contracts, employment contracts, handbooks, health and safety handbooks, driver handbooks, policies, procedures, training, inductions, all of that good stuff, which is where the value really is with an operator. And we're out dealing with those whilst, everyone else is having a bun fight over £50 an hour.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a partnership. It's a support. It's bringing that operator forward, taking them to the next level, and even, and I know we'd be happy to do that at any time. Would be supporting even operators that have a transport manager. Maybe a new transport manager, or a one who's not experienced in a particular field, and we can come in and add value without the piece of paper necessary, in terms of just putting a name on a piece of paper. We're adding value to it all the time, I think, by doing that. And I think we could safely say that we, and there's many other people out there, of course, as well, but we would look at that side of things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think about the feedback I have from certainly one of the first operators I started dealing with, which isn't a million miles from where you live, Mike, and he said to me, or the general manager, who's also listed as a transport manager on there, said, is that the value he pays me is worth its weight in gold, because he knows if something changes in the legislation, he doesn't need to look, he doesn't have to find it, he doesn't need to go and try and understand it, because he knows I'm going to bash his door down, I'm going to sit him down, and I'm going to talk him through whatever he needs to know. And he's got that peace of mind. Now, I would ask people listening, what peace of mind are you offering your clients, your customers? What support are you offering them that potentially you're not charging for? And, it's those things that really make an impact to people.
Absolutely, yeah. Excellent. I think that's a really good subject. Really, it always elicits a feisty debate, doesn't it, on the forums and what have you. So join in, tell us what you think. We might be wrong, and other people might be right. But let's, if we don't understand the points of view, then we're never gonna. If we don't listen to them, we're never going to understand them. So, yeah, come forward with those different points of view, and it's always interesting to have those conversations.
Just quickly to finish it off, as it's a little bit controversial. What do you think an external transport manager should charge?
Yeah, that's put me on the spot. Whatever value they bring to the operation.
I think you're absolutely right. So I'm just going to put this out there, and it's sort of the basis that I work on. A level 6 qualified chartered member of IOSH, for example, the going rate for a health and safety consultant who is well versed in health and safety law in their specific field can be charging anything between £650 and £1,000 a day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, that's a lot of money.
And when you compare that to what transport managers are talking about, don't get me wrong, the operator CPC qualification is a level 3 qualification, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
However, it's very specialist knowledge, and whilst you're a health and safety competent person for somebody, a transport manager is held to a high level of regard. So it's just food for thought for people. So I'm not saying that because people think external transport managers might be money grabbing or thieving or what have you, but it is definitely about looking at what value you bring and what alternative solutions you can offer to people. I think is my bit. Anyway, we're going to finish for a second time now. Sorry, I'm going to get back off my soapbox, Mike. Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, brilliant.
I hope people have found value out of it, and I'm looking forward to posting this link. Every time someone says, what should an external transport manager charge, I'm going to post a link to this podcast, all right? So you're all going to get sick of it. Anyway, right, catch you all soon.
See you all soon.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.